Welcome to the August 5th, 2020 meeting of the Gaston County Board of Education. I am Brent Moore, Crowders Mountain Township, and Chairman of the Board. At this time, I would like to ask our clerk to call the roll to allow the other members of the board to introduce themselves.
Lee Dedman,
Present.
Justin Davis,
Yes, Madam Clerk, this is Justin Davis. I'm on a scheduled planned trip out of town, but I'm on remotely.
Terry Ushery, Steve Hall,
Here.
Dot Guthrie,
Here.
Kevin Collier, Jeff Ramsey,
Here.
and Dot Cherry.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome everyone to our meeting this afternoon. We're holding our meeting virtually due to the governor's executive order and the continuation of phase 2, which limits the number of attendees at indoor gatherings. We're live streaming our meeting, and it can be watched on Channel 21 as well. At this time, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
And it's unanimous. This is a work session to discuss and receive an update on the reopening plan of our schools. School begins for our students on August the 17th and for our teachers on August the 10th. I know our superintendent and staff have been working very hard to finalize the details of the plan that we approved at our meeting in July. I know our teachers and parents and students are anxious to hear more about this plan, as well as we are as board members. So at this time, I would like to hand it over to Dr. Booker for an update.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. To say that there has been a lot of concern around the opening of school for the 2021 academic year would be quite an understatement. With the governor's announcement on July 14th, we began working on a hybrid plan to meet his direction regarding Plan B. Our implementation is a plan that provides two options for students and families. Students and families can choose either a part in school and part remote learning supported by the school, or full remote learning, which means all distance learning, no in-person instruction through the Gaston Virtual Academy. In addition to all the traditional school roles, we have added responsibilities due to the pandemic. Schools are to operate at capacity that allows for a plan to maximize social distancing as much as possible. All are to follow hygiene rules of frequent washing of hands with soap and, where not feasible, hand sanitizer. Transportation will still be provided for all students, but students and adults are to wear masks on the bus with one student per seat. This limits our bus capacity and creates the need for more bus routes and more frequent routes. Students and adults are to wear masks throughout their entire time in a building, although there may be an exception based on a medical exemption. The plan that we have presented and will further identify for you today is a comprehensive reopening plan. But we all must remember that every start of a school year brings challenges and change. This year, COVID-19 adds a multitude of challenges and changes. We realize that there are those who want to go back to school in a traditional 5-day-a-week format. And there are those who think we should be totally remote. But we can all agree that we want our children and our teachers to be safe. We have worked to follow the guidelines for the Center for Disease Control, our state and local health departments, to put safety precautions in place for cleaning, disinfecting, providing materials for hand washing, ensuring that masks are worn, and that we practice social distancing as much as possible. We do understand that mask wearing will be a problem for some students who may fall in the categories that have been identified by the Center for Disease Control. We also understand that the entire school community needs to feel safe. Our teachers are concerned about their safety, some of whom have pre-existing medical conditions. Our Human Resource Department has been working with our health personnel and special education to ensure that everyone is provided a safe possible under all the circumstances that were presented. These are difficult times, and there are many difficult decisions that have to be made. On the one hand, many parents want to send their children back to school, while some do not want to send them back. We have produced an operational guidance document for the community, and it is posted on our website. In this guide, we provide an overview of school operations for our family. Our Human Resources Department has developed a reentry document for our employees that they'll provide for you today and will be posted tomorrow that shows them the guidelines as they return to work. Additionally, I have here the 54 reopening plans that each of our principals has developed for their facilities. We know that COVID-19 has had a disproportionate impact on families who do not have access to technology. There's no easy solution to resolving the existing inequities, but we continue to work on solutions for our students. You'll hear more about that today. We continue to learn daily about COVID-19. We learn from school systems that have already entered into practice in the U.S. as well as nations around the world. Our teams review this information for ways to improve. We meet daily dealing with the different things that are brought to us. But at all times, we keep in mind the values and the guiding principles we've used for decision making. Today, we'll be presenting you the progress. I want to refresh you that the governor's plan gave us three options. Plan A, which would be minimal social distancing, Plan B, which has moderate social distancing, and then Plan C. We were given documents to guide us on how we would go about it. And these documents are living documents, lighting our way forward, and the Strong Schools North Carolina Public Health Code. You'll see it has been updated since your last meeting on the 20th with additional information. We created from that these focus areas that we talked about previously. but through it all, we have guiding principles to provide a safe school environment for our student and employees, to develop a plan that is in the best interest of our schools, to ensure that we provide quality in-person and remote teaching and learning, to engage our stakeholders, and to recognize the evolving needs of our community during this COVID crisis. You will recall from our reentry presentation that these are the days that we have outlined. We will have AA days and BB days, and we divided it by alphabet. There has been some adjustments for families because of blended families or work conditions, and they're working with our schools to do that. But this is the options that are afforded, and then the Group C is our group with our virtual school. And I just want to point out on our virtual school, we surpassed over 5,300 folks who have enrolled in our virtual school. If we took that school and separated it, it would be the 61st largest school in the state of North Carolina. And that's occurred in 2 weeks. So I know there are a lot of folks that are asking you emails about schedules and things. Think about building a school and trying to, so we'll get that. But it's customary for schools to receive and distribute schedules that first week back because that's when open houses are. But when we surpass that 5,000 mark, that's a significant when you think about the size. I mentioned earlier about the reopening of schools document. This is just a snapshot of where it's located on our website that allows the community to see some of the operational guidelines that we have. So when we start talking about our reentry actions taken to date, I think the most important thing is to start talking about what protocols are in place. And for us, the first 2 protocols that I would like to share with you are about health and hygiene and our personal protection equipment, what we have required and the recommendations and how we're going about that. And so we have with us today Ms. McLean, and she has a presentation for you all regarding our health and safety guidelines. Ms. McLean?
Yes, sir. I'm turning on my camera. It's not coming on. Is the camera on? Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Booker. Good afternoon, Chairman Moore, Vice Chairman Collier, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Booker. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on our health and safety personnel, procedures, and guidelines for school reentry. This presentation will include information on our health professionals, and then I'll discuss our COVID-19 task force. As we talk about our health professionals, we actually have 2 health professionals in place that will support Gaston County Schools this year. Susan Neely is our coordinator of health and human services, and she has over 30 years in experience as an emergency room nurse and manager. She will continue with our day-to-day operations by providing health care and support. In her leadership role, she'll work directly with our school nurses and coordinate with social workers as they provide health and human services as needed in our communities and our schools. Betty Worthy will serve as our public health coordinator. Now, she is back with us in Gaston County Schools, and she brings over 30 years experience as a public health administrator. 100% of her effort will be devoted towards COVID-19. She is our liaison to the Gaston County Department of Health and Human Services, and she'll work directly with principals, with our Human Resources departments as well. And she will primarily be responsible for conducting audit checks. Now, as I speak a little bit more about our audit checks, Basically, Mrs. Worthy will serve as our boots on the ground person for helping us to provide school-based monitoring. She will be on site to monitor temperature checks and the scanning processes that will take place in our schools. And then she'll be available to provide direct feedback, support, and recommendations to our principals based on her observations in the audits that are conducted. Now, the COVID-19 task force, this is an added support that we have established. And primarily, they will be responsible for conducting or having weekly task force meetings where they'll receive information from schools. Human Resources will provide an update, as well as Mrs. Worthy in her role as the coordinator for our public health. In partnership with Gaston County Department of Health and Human Services, we will meet weekly with them and they will provide guidance to us. And this is an opportunity for us to ask questions, to have them provide additional recommendations for us. And just yesterday, we had our first meeting, which was very successful, where they were able to provide guidance to us in several areas. Chairman Moore, Dr. Booker, this is all that I have at this time for my update.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Continuing with the district protocols, procedures, and guidance, next, one of the things that you've received a number of questions about is our Exceptional Children's Services, and I'll call on Carrie Minnick, who's the Executive Director for our Exceptional Children's Department. Ms. Minnick?
Chairman Moore, Superintendent Booker, members of the board, I'm pleased to be with you tonight to talk about the Department for Exceptional Children's plan for reopening this school year. I wanted to begin by sharing a quote that has really come back to the surface for me in the last few months, and that is that all students can learn and succeed, but not in the same way and not in the same day. And if COVID-19 has taught us anything, I think it is that we have to be creative in how we meet the needs of all of our students and work hard to make sure that they are all successful in their way. So to begin, I'd like to reiterate that Plan B is the plan that Gaston County Schools has chosen, and that will be in place for all of our students, our AIG students, our EC students, our EL students, and our pre-K students will all be attending school on either Monday and Tuesday or Thursday and Friday. For our AIG students, they will have contact with their AIG teacher during the first week of school and reach out to parents to update their differentiated education plan so that the students may meet their teachers and feel a connection to them. And then they will be provided with live virtual instruction on their non-attendance days or as part of their virtual academy experience if they are a virtual academy student. We feel like this will give those students the opportunity to maximize their time to learn the core instruction and to be with their peers, but then to still be challenged and enriched on those off days when they're not present. There will also be offline accommodations available for students that do not have internet access, and their AIG teachers will be based in the school buildings to check in on them and be available should they have questions or concerns. The next group I'd like to update on are our English learner students. Their language instruction educational programs have already been updated to reflect the changes for this year, and they will be spending the first weeks of school testing and identifying for new students that we have. After that, they will also participate in live virtual instruction on their non-attendance days, just like our AIG students, and they will also have offline accommodations provided for them should they not have internet access. Moving on to our exceptional children's population, we will be completing a remote learning contingency plan for every EC student that we have in Gaston County. So this is over 4,700 students that will need to have this plan completed by their school and parents jointly. But the purpose of the plan is to be sure that we have updated agreements, updated conversation about what the student needs in whichever learning situation they have chosen. If they have chosen to be part of the virtual academy, their services and needs might look a little bit differently than if they've chosen to participate in our blended model, but we have strategies and plans in place to help them be successful regardless of their choice. Related services for our EC students, which are things like physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, will be offered for our students. We are happy to say that we have an updated virtual platform that is HIPAA compliant that will allow our service providers to provide those services virtually for our parents that are not comfortable with their children coming in person for those services. Or we can provide in-person services on days that students are in attendance, or at a hub site, or even possibly their actual homeschool on a non-attendance day. So this will also allow us to maximize their time for core instruction, but make sure that they're receiving the services they need to catch up and be successful on their learning goals. Evaluations. I think this is probably the biggest challenge for us right now. Due to our inability to not be with students in person over the spring, we currently have 474 evaluations that need to be completed so that we have updated information on our students and we can provide relevant instructional practices for them to help them be successful. So we will be moving forward with the evaluations. However, if a family has chosen an all virtual option, we will need to work with you to help figure out how best to bring your student in person for one-on-one testing so that we can complete this process. Unfortunately, there are not online options for many of our tests that we have to use right now. So the school will be reaching out to you to talk about which way you prefer. Do you prefer to do that in person at the school? Would you prefer to come to a hub on a day when your child's not in school? And we are going to have a good plan for moving forward once we know where all of our students have landed and where our priorities need to be. So that is my update for today. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Minnick, for covering that. The next protocol and procedure that will take a little bit of time is related to building and classroom and facility readiness. And to do this, we wanted to take and look at what a day in the life of a student would be as they deal with the interaction on our facility. So I want to ask Dr. Huchard if he will walk through this diagram. Dr. Huchard?
Thank you, Dr. Booker. Good afternoon, Chairman Moore, board members. It's good to be with you all this afternoon. I want to begin with facilities and maintenance, and our principals, staff, and facilities department are doing a great job in preparing our school buildings to receive students on August 17th. School leadership teams have developed school reopening plans for their faculty and staff with guidelines, procedures, and processes to help ensure that our schools reopen safely. Many classrooms and hallways have been set up to model plus to ensure social distancing while students are in classrooms and transitioning between classes. Our schools have been provided with appropriate COVID-19 signage and markers to prepare for occupancy. Informational signs about stopping the spread of COVID-19, directional floor markings, 6-foot spacing indicators, healthy habit promotions, and hand sanitizer location signage has all been put up and distributed. Office shields for reception areas have been installed at all locations, and our facilities and maintenance team continue to adjust those as needed. Custodial supplies such as soap, paper towels, toilet tissue, cleaning chemicals, disinfectants, and sanitizers are well stocked at each school with ample surplus in our warehouse. Hand sanitizer is being provided for each classroom, office, and common area, with plenty in stock for a continuous supply. Earlier this week, we held our annual training for all custodians where guidance and training was provided with regards to our cleaning products and procedures, as well as our electrostatic sprayers for disinfecting. Thorough cleaning and disinfecting will take place daily, with deep cleaning and disinfecting to take place on Wednesdays. We will be providing E62 sanitizer to our classrooms so that faculty and staff will have the ability to sanitize touch points as needed throughout the day. Handouts for the Classroom Assisted COVID-19 Sanitation Program will support faculty and staff with the correct use of the product. Support telephone numbers are also provided. And product dispensers for these are located in various custodial closets and will be refilled by our custodial staff as needed. I do want everybody to know that we are meeting and in many cases exceeding expectations, recommendations, and requirements for local, state, and federal guidelines. I also want you to know that school leadership and schools continue to work through traffic flow and parking lot logistics, student drop-off and pickup procedures, building entrances with regard to student and bus drop-off and pickup, and security at the entrances, with all the changes presented to us by this pandemic. So I would like to start with how we're going to start our school. Ken, the first thing that a lot of students see is our buses. So let's start with transportation. And as you know, there are 4 ways students arrive at their schools daily. If you are able to walk to school, some drive themselves, some are brought by caregivers, and many ride our buses. So I'd like to take a minute or two to share with you what our students can expect and what they'll experience if they ride the bus to school. With school beginning for elementary schools at 7:30, students can expect to be picked up between 6:15 and 7:20, elementary school students. Middle and high school students can expect to be picked up between 6:30 and 8:20, with their school beginning at 8:30. As the bus opens the doors at the stop, students will be greeted by a bus monitor who will welcome them to the start of their day and then help them work through the transition from the bus stop to boarding the bus. Monitors will ensure that all students have a mask and are wearing it. They will provide one to any student who may have forgotten to wear theirs. They will collect the parent and guardian attestation form and then take their temperature. Students will then be directed to be seated in a seat with 1 student per seat, which will begin in the rear of the bus and move towards the front until it is at capacity. In the event that any student has a temperature of 100.4 degrees or higher, the monitor will work with the parent or guardian for their safe return home so they can follow all safety procedures as well as support any unaccompanied student as needed. Once the bus arrives at the school, the monitor will help ensure social distancing while exiting the bus and will help students maintain all school expectations through the transition from the bus to school upon arrival. I also want to add, as we discussed earlier meeting, buses will be disinfected after each load and deep cleaned on Wednesdays by our staff. And that's how we're going to get kids to school through the school building with plans and procedures that principals are laying in place and have laid in place. And then once they're at school, I would like to touch on school nutrition and how we're going to feed them, because once we pick them up, we like to get their bellies full, and so we know that learning can take place. So we're excited about the upcoming year for school nutrition, being able to provide nutritious and delicious meals to our students, faculty, and staff. So beginning on August 17th, some students, as they enter the school building, will receive breakfast in a grab-and-go format, which enables them to take their breakfast to the classroom. Others will receive breakfast delivered to their classroom by our school nutrition staff. School nutrition leadership continues to work with our school administrators to best meet the needs of the students and the school with breakfast service. Lunches will be delivered to all classrooms for all students each day by the nutritional staff. We will also simultaneously offer a grab-and-go meal service for all students every day at every school. So, for an example, the student in cohort A, they will receive meal service while they are attending school in person on Monday and Tuesday. They will be able to pick up grab-and-go meal on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Conversely, students who are in cohort B will be able to pick a grab-and-go meal up on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then receive meal service at school on Thursday and Friday. So by serving meals every day, we're able to provide hot meal options, fresh fruit, vegetables, and milk each day to our students. It doesn't have to be shelf stable. We know how important it is to give a high quality nutrition to our students for them and for learning, and we look forward to serving them in the future. That's kind of getting our kids, picking them up from the stop, getting them to school, and providing meal service for them. Dr. Booker?
Thank you, Dr. Huchard. And as you can see, this diagram shows where once the children are live there at step 5, they'll follow the class procedures as I outlined in these books. I have visited numerous schools over the last week, and they have started marking the hallways with directional signage, as well as showing social distancing for the hallways, and then started setting classrooms up. Step 6 with about the lunch breaks, Dr. Huchard just covered that. And then we start talking about receiving student services and accessing content. This is where we're going to spend some time. And want to start with our virtual learning. I'm going to ask Bianca Yavalak to present to you all what I really appreciate you all asked to get the information out. We posted a document on our website where people could register, and she created sessions that had over 100 attendees, and all 5 sessions were full with attendees. And I've got great feedback and also input on how it could work. So she's going to walk you through the information session and share some of the learnings from that. So Bianca?
Thank you, Dr. Booker. Good afternoon, Chairman Moore, board members. So last week, as Dr. Booker said, we were able to hold a series of information sessions for parents and families that were interested in the Gaston Virtual Academy as an option for their students. So I would like to share some of that information with you as well. So the Gaston Virtual Academy was created 4 years ago as a special opportunity for students who needed something non-traditional for their learning. So we created a program where students could take their courses fully online in a flexible environment that would allow them to meet the needs of their schedule, whether they were competitive athletes or had medical reasons or any variety of things that took them out of traditional classroom. We are expanding that program now to help families who need a place that they are comfortable sending their students that is not a traditional school. So I'm going to kind of walk through that program. We've had a lot of questions about how this is different than what we did in the spring and how this is different from the Gaston Virtual Academy of the past. So as everyone knows, back in the spring, in March, students went home on a Thursday half day and then didn't come back. And so what that led to was students having to learn to be online students, teachers having to learn to be online teachers. So we were both learning multiple platforms, variation in instruction, variation in class time, and some inconsistencies for students. So we've taken what we've learned at Gaston Virtual Academy for the last 4 years through a flexible 100% online program that was student-paced and student-led, and combined that to meet the needs of these over 5,000 students we currently have applied. So we are going to be using Schoology and Canvas as our learning platforms, the same as every other classroom in Gaston County. Our courses will have certified teachers from around Gaston County. Every course will have a teacher assigned to it that will offer not just feedback and support, but also live instructional time. So students will have opportunities to do whole class live instructional time, targeted small group instruction, and also the opportunity for one-on-one tutoring. So as we compare our instructional model to the instructional model of the traditional schools, we are using Schoology in K-5. We have also procured a contract with Edmentum, which is a content provider that is specifically geared towards younger students. Our teachers will be able to drop that content into those courses so that they can use it to supplement the student learning. For secondary students in 612, students will be using Canvas, where they will have the opportunity to not just get their new content, but also interact with their teachers, interact with their classmates. Teachers are able to record their live instruction, share it with students so they can review it later, and keep up with the schedule and keep up with the communication to build those relationships the same way they would in a traditional classroom. Our teachers are going to be available during the normal school day for students. They'll be able to offer instruction. They'll be able to offer feedback and grading on assignments, as well as support or enrichment as needed. We are So we are aligning all of our courses to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study and also the Gaston County Pacing Guide. So we are asking families to commit to either one semester with the Virtual Academy or one full school year. And we want to ensure that that is an easy transition for them back into the traditional classroom whenever they choose to move. So by aligning with the pacing, we're making that transition much more smooth. As Carrie Minnick spoke earlier, we are offering opportunities for students who get extra instructional support. So we will have AIG teachers that will work with our students, both in building the curriculum and building enrichment opportunities for the students, as well as in small group or individual pullouts, depending on their personalized plan. Same for EL students. If a student has an IEP or a 504 plan, then those will be reviewed by their caseworker teacher or their 504 coordinator, teachers, as well as people from the EC department, and we will make sure that we are creating accommodations that they need for the virtual environment that may or may not have been necessary in the physical environment. We have worked with EC for students when the adapted curriculum, and those students will be receiving separate support. We have been working on the master schedule. We've gotten a lot of questions about this, what courses will be offered, and how are we going to be able to make this, to fit enough classes in. Right now, we are working on using schedules that students had already enrolled. So most students filled out their course requests before they left back in March. And so we are taking that information and we are using it to create our schedule. Just like in any school, once we have enough students to fill a section, we'll create that section. And then we are going to find highly qualified Gaston County Schools teachers to help teach those courses. So we have worked with our CTE department to make sure that we can offer the CTE courses that are viable in a virtual setting. Not all of them are. If students are in courses that we can't offer, we'll offer a substitution or we'll offer them something maybe they have suggested in a different semester. If a student is planning on taking a high school course in middle school, we will offer the opportunity for those accelerated curriculum as well. Students who are enrolled in CCP or NCVPS courses already through their high school, those will be honored and we will just continue to enroll them in those courses. We are waiting on information for fine arts, just like every other school is at this point. We will follow the recommendations for every other school for that. As with all Gaston County schools, we will be offering Chromebooks to our students, except we are offering Chromebooks to students for their use K-12. So all of our students will have the opportunity to get a device that they can work on their coursework with us. And then students who need assistance with internet access to complete their coursework, we will work with them on a case-by-case basis. We have some alternative methods that we are planning out depending on what students need. We are working to create our courses following recommendations of screen time based on student age. So our very young students, we don't want to create courses that puts them in front of a Chromebook for 6 or 7 hours a day. We know students don't learn well that way. So we're building very small. So our live instructional times are not going to be a 90-minute lecture. We're going to do very short, small instructional pieces, small group pieces, so students can interact and communicate and get to know everyone in their class, as well as students are able to talk to each other, talk to their teacher, and make sure that learning is happening. In between live sessions, students will have coursework to complete the same way they would in a normal classroom, and that follows all the way through high school students. So students who are enrolling currently, we are waiting on that final list. So registration ends on Friday, August 7th. So once that list has come in, we're going to start sending out information on course registration. So if they do have one of those classes that we have to offer a substitution, or if they do have a class that we need to change or just have a conversation around, we'll reach out to those students. We'll talk to them about picking up devices and how the devices are going to be distributed amongst the schools. We have to find a way to do that safely with so many students. and then information about their virtual orientation. So there's no way to safely have an orientation of this many students, even by grade level. So we're going to do a virtual orientation that's going to include all the information they need to be successful in the virtual platform. So we are, again, deadline is August 7th, Friday. We had a lot of questions about, will my choice seat be saved or my transfer be saved? And we want to make sure that families know that we will be honoring those seats in choice programs or approved transfers for at least 1 year. Thank you for your time. That is all I have in my presentation.
Bianca, thank you for all the work that you have done and the facilitation with our families as they have explored our virtual opportunities. Next, we're going to discuss academic services, and I'm going to ask Dr. Christy Bostic if she'll start that presentation. And we'll have to do a shift here of technology. We're going to screen share from her location.
Afternoon. I'm excited to be able to talk to you about the work that has been going on in academic services, specifically around instruction. As you are aware, and to reiterate once again, as we move through some of this documentation and information, we are in Plan B, which means that students will physically be in the classroom on Monday and Tuesday, and then Group B will be physically in the classroom on Thursday and Friday. And that leaves that all of our students will be remote on Wednesday, working through their remote work and independent work, except for those students that Ms. Minnick indicated earlier may be on a special plan and need some additional support. Our instructional team has created K-12 instructional expectations based on our K-12 instructional model that indicates that we will provide a rigorous curriculum, responsive instruction, a learner-centered environment, and balanced assessments. We have always had instructional expectations in the place for our classroom instruction. These expectations have been updated to show what the expectations will be for both the physical environment and the digital learning environment. The digital learning environment covers students that are both in the blended groups on the days that they are learning remotely, as well as our virtual students that will be in the virtual academy. These documents have been created for K-5, 6-8, and 9-12. On your screen is a portion of the elementary document as an example. Many of the research-based instructional practices that are expected in the physical learning environment are also expectations in the digital environment. The instructional directors, Shannon Hullett for elementary, Amy Parker for middle, and Kathleen DeAvria for high school, will now share some information about what instruction will look like through our learning management system and give you some examples of how things like standards-based instruction happens both in the classroom as well as in the digital learning environment.
We are very fortunate that our district already started to support teachers in this transition to these new instructional expectations. We started implementing a number of methods for personalized learning for students across all levels of our district through choice, blended, and virtual learning options. This is not new. In 2018, the district partnered with a company called Modern Teacher to help guide and support us as we worked towards modernizing the K-12 learning environment for our students, with the purpose of creating a K-12 aligned modern school district where students' personalized learning options provide them with more choice in their learning pathway. We had a timeline that was actually more extended, but our circumstances dictated that we had to move up that timeline to ensure that all of our teachers have the knowledge they need to provide quality instruction anytime, anywhere. In the spring, our K-8 teachers, administrators, and support staff were asked to work through the Modern Teacher module called Architect, a Digital Learning Environment. This provided the foundational knowledge to support teachers in both preparing and planning for both their physical and digital learning environments, and now remote learning environment. Through this work, we learned that we needed a learning management system. We needed this to support our teachers in being able to leverage technology to support learning anywhere. Gaston County Schools moved towards purchasing learning management systems to support teachers. Schoology that you see there on your screen will be the K-5 management system, and Canvas right beside it will be the 6-12. Canvas was selected at the secondary level because it's been used in the district for 4 years. There are pockets of teachers at every high school that are familiar with it. The instructional technology facilitators are currently training all K-12 staff. And I'd like to take a minute to take you out to the site that they have created. The amount of work that has gone in to both our Schoology training as well as our Canvas training to support all of our teachers. All of our teachers and administrators and support staff have access to this Gaston digital site, our instructional technology facilitators. Give me just a minute. I'm having trouble scrolling down the screen over here on the side. There we go. Too fast though. So first of all, you'll see up here, our instructional technology facilitators created a learning pathway for our teachers. We know every entry point when we learn something, we are beginners, but we all hoped to be accomplished in the end and then distinguished in the finale. So they have given our teachers a guide to help them process through how they are going to be able to do that. Also on this site, Ms. Cooper, can you, oh, got it. They have the Intro to Canvas course that our teachers were able to enroll in and do it in self-paced learning. The course, Intro to Canvas, is actually in Canvas. So the unique thing about that is our teachers got to participate as students if they had never done that before, and they then in turn can build better learning management for our students because they've had that opportunity. We also have some virtual PD opportunities that have been going on, and this is in both supports for our elementary and our secondary teachers. Those were 1 hour live PD where you got to come and actually work with the instructional technology facilitator, get questions answered, and participate in very small chunks of learning how to navigate the learning management system. So all of this support has taken place over the past few weeks. We have already to date had 1,044 staff members sign up to participate in the elementary level, and we already have 725 staff members that have completed the introductory course in Canvas, as well as moved on to the virtual PD, and now we have 45 teachers enrolled in the Google, how it integrates with Canvas. So we are very excited that academic services and TSS and our instructional technologies facilitators have been able to work together to provide this support for our teachers. Now let's take a minute and look at these learning management systems. What exactly does it look like inside of them? Ms. Hullett is going to start with, what does it look like inside of Schoology?
So as soon as teachers get through the initial training of just learning the tools, the tricks, the navigation pieces of the learning management system, then they're ready. They're ready to get in and begin to build that content. So along with learning the platform, we are supporting our teachers and helping them think about, how am I going to use this management system to support students not only in the remote setting, but also in that physical learning environment, because it is the tool that's going to help us leverage technology no matter where we are. So we're excited about that. So we wanted to first get them familiar with the platform and then bring in our pacing and our curriculum resources so they could see how to begin to build those in the platform so that students had access to them at any time. We also worked really hard to put resources together that align to our standards and support the work of our unit guides. We wanted teachers to be able to go straight to our resources, find that standard that they were going to be focusing in on, and then just have a bank of great vetted material that they can pull and just quickly put into their course in their learning management system. So those are some of the pieces that we've been working on with teachers along the way. A learning plan is a template that we are working with teachers on, so there's consistency across the district. As students get into the learning management system, it's going to feel familiar. It's going to look the same. And that is just following that good gradual release. We're going to learn about the standard. The teachers might model it. They might engage in it through a hands-on inquiry type of lesson, but we're going to get familiar with the content. Then we got to practice it. Then we got to, have some time to really work with that content. And then when we feel confident with it, we're ready to show our knowledge. We're ready to share that evidence of learning. So that simple method we're going to use to help build content in the learning management system. So our students see it at home and they see it in the classroom as well. The great thing about our learning management system is teachers are going to be able to get to their pacing and curriculum units right in the system. And they're going to be able to grab those resources and pull them quickly into their courses. So we want to take a minute and jump into our Schoology so that you can see it from the perspective of not only a teacher, but also a student. So, just a minute. So when I log into Schoology, this is the landing page. So as a teacher is going to log in, and this is where any update or information from the district or her PLC team, it's all going to feed through the update page. Kind of feels a little bit like Facebook. Teachers can respond to one another. They can share photos. You see some of our teachers, they're already sharing some of the exciting work that they're doing from their training sessions. They're posting some of that already. So this is just kind of an update section for our staff and our teachers to be able to use. The first place that teachers are going to want to go to is groups. Elementary Academic Services has created a group, and this is their one-stop shop to get all of the resources they need to get the content ready for students to have instant access to. So they would just click on resources. There they are. All of their pacing and curriculum units are ready to go. I'm just going to jump in. There is my year at a glance, so I know exactly what are the standards I'm going to be teaching throughout the year. What is my timeline for delivery of that information? And then what am I going to use to deliver that? This is where they will get those great resources. This is our unit guides. Within our unit guides, they're going to see lots of background information aligned to the standard. They're going to see the focus standard for the unit. And then they're going to have, just at the tip of their fingers, they are going to have access to materials that they will pull right into that learning management system. So when they click on the document in their folder, they're going to see it's organized by that learn it, practice it, evidence of learning. So these are direct links to videos of teachers teaching the content. There's one of our third grade teachers, Carly, ready to go. So our teachers can just pull that video right into the platform so it's ready to be used in class when a student is working independently or at home when the student is working remotely. From there, they would go back to their Schoology account, go to their courses. I'm going to minimize this for a minute. Here's my sandbox. Here's my course. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to build it. I'm just going to pull those links right in to my course. So this is what our teachers have been learning throughout their Schoology training. What does it look like from a student perspective? Okay. Here is a student homepage. Again, they're going to have an update section where the teacher can post announcements for them. Now I want to get to the good stuff. My learning. I'm going to jump down. Let's look at math. There is my first week ready to go. There's that standard that I'm going to be working on. The parent can see this as well. This is what a parent sees as well when they are logged in looking at their student's course. So this is the standard. There is my Learn It activities. I want to practice that standard, so we're going to pull in the games from investigations. Right there, I can jump right into that game. I'm done. I can go back. And I've done a lot of practice, and the teacher says, show me what you know. Now I'm going to go to that evidence of learning. I also can keep an eye out on my grades as a student. Right here, I know these 2 assignments are going to be graded. Not yet. School hasn't started, but that's coming. The motivational piece, I can work to earn these badges for getting my work done, for having perfect attendance, and teachers can add badges. This is a great motivational tool for our students as well. Our virtual teachers that are doing all online, this is how I deliver live sessions. They would just schedule the time and it would populate on the student's calendar. And that can be found here. So that would pop up there if I had a live conference with my teacher. So that's a view of a day in the life of a student working remotely or in the classroom. I can jump in and work on my learning plan when the teacher's pulling small groups.
Good afternoon. I'd like to just take a moment now to review Canvas with everyone. This, again, is the learning management system that will be used by our middle and our high school students. As previously mentioned, all secondary teachers have been provided training in Canvas through an asynchronous Canvas course called Intro to Canvas. Additional support has been given through live virtual professional development sessions offered by our ITFs. Each live session has focused on just one manageable piece of Canvas. For example, we had a session that just focused on how to create a discussion board. To take our support to the next level, middle and high school academic services has been working to create instructional support materials that teachers can now use in Canvas. These materials, whether they are exemplar modules, a collection of student playlists, or course blueprints, align to the standard course of study and meet our expectation of rigor.
Mr. Buchanan and his CTE staff have been working to build course content for their CTE teachers. For all other content areas, CFs, AFs, and lead teachers have created instructional resources. This includes the fine arts, our band, chorus, Spanish, and health and PE teachers. At the high school level, while not every course has been addressed, we do feel confident that all of our teachers will be impacted and can use the support that we are showing. Give me one moment to pull up Canvas. All right, here we are in Canvas. Whether you are a student or a teacher, this is what you're going to see when you enter Canvas from our single sign-on. Canvas shows for each student and each teacher a course card. So each student will receive one course card for every course in which they are enrolled, and teachers the same thing. They will have a course card for every class that they are teaching. Let's talk a little bit about the student and the teacher dashboard. From this dashboard, a few features to mention. Over here, as you can see in the green navigation bar, we have an inbox. The inbox works just like an email. In fact, it is actually tied to our Gaston County School Gmail system. So anytime a teacher or a student logs in, as you can see, you will get a notification if you have an email or a communication from a student or a teacher. Over here on the opposite side of the screen, there is a to-do list. That to-do list shows for both our students and our teachers. The teachers and students see any assignments that are upcoming. Teachers get this nice feature where you can see how many items they have that have been submitted by their students. So as I can see, I have 2 assignments here that I need to grade because 2 students have submitted that grade assignment, text entry and rich content editor basics assignment. Scrolling down just a little bit. If a teacher leaves an announcement in a course, I'm going to have a very easy way to identify if there's some new information there as well. This little bullhorn that appears in every one of my course cards will light up if there is a new piece of information or a new announcement that the teacher has left for me. Now let's jump into a course. What we have provided for all of our teachers is a template for our Canvas courses. So I'm going to jump into one of our templates here for a high school American history course. And now I'm viewing this course as a teacher. As a teacher, I have a lot more options and a lot more features, but anywhere that you see these little icons of the eye that is slashed out, that means that that will be hidden from our student view. What we have done at the high school level for academic services is we have created these templates that every teacher can use and pull into their course. Anywhere you see bold, this is something where a teacher is going to be able to personally edit this course and make it their own. So as an American history teacher, I can take this template and I can simply click edit. And I can enter the title of my course here. I can scroll down and it tells me that I do need to leave an introductory message here. So I can write a welcome message. Dear students, welcome to American History. I am looking so forward to working with you this semester. Like I said, they can make this their own. They can personalize it. If they don't like some of the images that we have already preloaded, they are certainly welcome to change those images out. And they are able to make this course their own. In the modules, this is really where the meat of the course rests. What we have provided for our teachers is the very first module is a module that is just for them. As you can see, we have highlighted to them that they are not to publish this module. This is for them. This is their information. So they have some instructions on how to take this template and how to work in it and how to customize it. As I mentioned before, if they didn't like that first graphic or some of the other graphics in the template, they have some options that they can pick from and change out, and there are instructions here on how to do that. Even though they have been trained in Canvas and they still have access to that Intro to Canvas course, There are some quick links here in this teacher module that they can go back to, and they can begin to look back over if they forget how to do something or if they need additional supports. I'm going to skip this playlist section for just a moment, and I will return to that. Similar to what elementary did in Schoology, we also have embedded the unit guides. So if an American 1 teacher is going to see the American 1 units, a Math 1 teacher will see the Math 1 units. They're going to have their unit guides right here, so they don't have to leave Canvas in order to see what it is that they need to teach. So I can simply click on Unit 3 as a teacher, and what I can do is I can pull that up, and I apologize, I'm in incognito, so it's not going to pull up here for me today. But when they pull into that unit, what they're going to see is very similar to what we saw from elementary. They're going to have the focus standards, they're going to have key content. They are also going to have that structure that we saw before. We're using that structure of the learn it, practice it, evidence of learning, K-12. And so those unit guides also list different materials and resources teachers can pull into their Canvas course. Jumping further down, let's go ahead and take a look at this course now from a student perspective. So I'm going to jump into our student view. As a student, again, as you can see, I have fewer options here in my navigation bar, so that keeps things very simple and it keeps things a little bit easier to manage. Once my teacher has edited that home page, I'm going to know this is Mrs. DeAvria's class and this is her welcome message to me. And now it's time to get into the content in my modules. In my modules, here is my Canvas resource. So this is a way that I can go back and click on some help guides if I don't know exactly what I'm doing. The ITFs right now are actually working on a much more robust introductory module in Canvas that we're going to push out to all of our students 6 through 12 so that they will be able to get a very rich experience in Canvas and navigate and learn how to navigate Canvas from that student perspective. Once again, I've got the welcome to my class that my teacher has customized. So I'm going to learn a little bit more about what this class is about, learn more about my teacher. I also have a class discussion board that I can go to and post questions if at any time on those remote days, I have a question about something the teacher has left for me. With this module, the module structure, as you can see here, once again, we have the launch, the learn about it, practice it, and the evidence of learning. That same structure is, again, ingrained K through 12. So my teacher has used a template for that module to now embed different activities for me in my Canvas course. So in my launch, I'm learning just about what it is that I'm going to be examining in this module. When I get to my Learn About It section, I'm going to have some choice options. I have some videos. I have some PDFs. I have links to an online textbook if that's what I need. I have my practice activities. These are Quizlet games, Khan Academy quizzes, different fun activities to practice what I've learned. And then I have the evidence of learning. How is my teacher going to know if I've truly mastered the content that has been presented? Again, this is designed to help support our teachers on those, support our students on the remote days. Should we have to go all virtual or should we have to go to Plan C? In those sections with the Learn About It, this is where the teacher now, I'm going to jump back to teacher view, has a conference feature. The teacher can click on the conference feature and they can live stream to students who are at home and they can actually teach through a conference feature here in our Canvas learning management system. Where's the presentation? Where's the presentation?
So we are very aware that most of our parents and students have not had experience with an LMS prior to this year. As support, we're in the process of creating a page on the Gaston County website that will provide parents with videos to access and navigate each LMS, as well as information about our other instructional programs, which we will still incorporate, like iReady and Discovery Education. There will also be resources there for social and emotional learning. We've been planning this for the past several weeks, and that page is being created and should be live by next week. Parents will find all of these supports and more, and that will be a page that is updated continuously as we determine what parents still need in order to be an active participant in their child's education.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. I would like to thank my team for their detailed presentation this afternoon. That's all we have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Balknight. I'd like to recognize Joey Clinton to cover the human resources items.
Good afternoon, Chairman Moore, Vice Chairman Collier, Superintendent Booker, and board members. This afternoon, I'd like to walk you through the employee handbook for reopening schools. I'm going to share my screen with you at this time, so give me just 1 second. So the Gaston County Schools reopening plan for employees, the Human Resources Department has worked to come up with a reopening plan handbook basically for our students as they enter back into our schools on our employees as they enter back on August 10th, which is Monday. So we wanted to make sure that they had a detailed plan coming back to school so that when they get back, we know that things are going to be somewhat different, but we wanted them to feel comfortable in the process of moving back from the summer and the remote learning that went on prior to summer back to in-person learning. So in this book, we have a table of contents, and you can see here it has a welcome section, an overview, the health screening responsibilities that will be associated to entering our schools, returning to work after a diagnosis and exposure or symptoms related to the virus, recommendations to help reduce the spread of COVID-19. We have cleaning and disinfecting protocols that we are going to share with them. Also workplace scenarios, depending on what your job is. With the district, we have different scenarios for each job. And then work and leave guidance that we have had on the website. We've linked here into this document. And also finally here we have the social emotional support, which many of our employees need during this time because of some anxiety that folks may be feeling. And we want them to know that there are some benefits to working with Gaston County Schools through our employee assistance program that they can utilize during this time. You can see here the welcome letter, just welcoming the employees back. This will open up the document. And obviously we have this letter in here as our goal to make sure that employees feel comfortable returning to work and that they understand that open communication and cooperation will be our goal as we move back into the in-person school setting of teaching and learning. Then we have the overview, which is basically just the guides that we've used to come up with this document for school reentry for our employees. And you can see here we've utilized the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Gaston County's Health and Human Services, and also NCDPI, which you all are aware of, that they have a document out there called Lighting Our Way Forward, and we've utilized that with this document for our handbook. The health screening responsibilities. You can see here when an employee comes back into the school setting, there are going to be some requirements that they have to undergo before entering our building. The first requirement is that we want all of our employees to undergo a symptom screener that their site supervisor will send to them prior to them entering a building. We have utilized that symptom screener for the past few days in all of our departments, so that individuals could get used to the symptom screener. And it basically just asks the employee several questions regarding symptoms related to COVID-19. And we have some examples here. And of course, in each of these, anything that's underlined here is also a hyperlink that employees will have the option to go to look at and to look at the protocols that are in place for the different processes that we have. With this health screener, we want to make sure that our employees know that if they have a temperature of 100.4 or higher, they will not be allowed to enter our buildings. And we have discussed the symptoms with our administrators. Obviously, any one of the following: fever, shortness of breath, or loss of taste or smell, individual cannot come into the building. And then any two of the following: sore throat, muscle aches, chills, worsening cough, congestion, nausea, or diarrhea would also warrant the individual not to come onto campus, because those are symptoms that are related to the COVID-19. The workplace health screening, we've linked that to the CDC, and basically just lets them know that they will undergo the symptom screener prior to coming in. And then on site, when they get to the building, we will do a temperature check. And again, anyone who has a temperature of 100.4 degrees or higher, which is the CDC's guidance for individuals that we must be very cautious of, will not be allowed to enter our facilities. And then we just laid out in detail what it's going to look like as you get up that morning on August 10th to come to work, the process and the procedure for you coming and entering our building. So we laid that out here. We went as far as the detail to what it's going to look like when you arrive at the building and what we expect out of folks waiting to be screened, the social distancing that's going to be required, also the mask wearing or a face covering that must be in place as you enter our facility. And so it's very detailed here, and obviously we're going to share this with you and with our staff so that you can read through each of the details here. Also, if the employee forgets to do the symptom screening, we will have paper copies that they will complete prior to entering the building. And so that's the basics for entering our building. We wanted this to be the first process that in this booklet that employees had a chance to go to, because that's going to be the first thing that's on their mind when they come to our facilities on August 10th. And we just wanted to lay out the details and be very specific of what that morning is going to look like as they enter our facilities. Returning to work after diagnosis, exposure, or illness, we have scenarios that we've laid out for employees so that they understand what to expect. For example, scenario 1 is for staff who are experiencing symptoms related to COVID-19. Again, it has any one of the following. These are the big symptoms that are most commonly associated with the virus, and then any two of the lesser symptoms that they may be experiencing, and then what staff should do. So staff who are experiencing these symptoms listed above without having a diagnosis should not be at work. That's the bottom line that we're going to to really focus on with our employees. If you're experiencing symptoms related to this virus, we do not want you to come to work. And you all know I've shared with you prior to this some of the leave options, especially the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act has a leave option where employees can utilize up to 80 hours of leave if they're experiencing any symptoms or signs related to COVID-19. And so we have that laid out. And then we have scenario 2 for a diagnosis. If someone has been diagnosed with COVID-19 and they do not have symptoms, so they're asymptomatic, oftentimes these are the individuals that we're most concerned about because they could be walking around in our buildings and not even realize that they're infected with the virus. But if and when we do figure out that a diagnosis of these individuals, then we have specific guidelines related to them coming back to work after their diagnosis. And we've laid those out here as well. Also, scenario 3, and these are for our folks who have been exposed to someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. They may not be showing symptoms at the time, but there's specific guidance. Those individuals, if they've had a direct exposure with someone for greater than 15 minutes and without wearing a face covering, we have specific guidance on the number of days that they are to quarantine and also when they should consult or consider being tested. And then we have the procedures for these employees demonstrating symptoms. Again, I'm just going to click on to some of the links so that you all can see exactly what employees are going to see. And this one here is the onset of symptoms procedures for school-based employees related to COVID-19. And I will click on to that one so that you all just will know exactly what our employees are going to see too. And obviously it's a little more difficult to read here, but they will be able to click onto this and open it in a large document. I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjusting over here on my sidebar because it's got me blocked. And you can see here exactly what the employee is going to see. And these are documents that we've created here in Human Resources for our administrators and our employees as we work back to entering school. And it just walks through what employees should do if they're having symptoms and they've had an exposure. So wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to see that. Gaston County Schools obviously is working hand in hand with Gaston County Department of Health and Human Services. They have been our right hand as we discussed, follow-up, contact tracing, exposures, diagnosis of the disease. They have helped us. We have a great relationship with those folks. Angela King, who works there in the Department of Health and Human Services, has been an excellent asset to both myself and Susan Neely. And we continue to work hand in hand with every situation that's come our way. We also have in the document the recommendation to reduce the spread of COVID-19 and what the CDC has outlined as those different recommendations to help slow and reduce spread. We know that hand washing is first and foremost the most effective way to reduce the spread of the virus. We have some information here for our employees about hand washing, including the length of time that the CDC recommends for hand washing. We have hand sanitizing stations. Again, these are live links that talk about hand sanitizer, and our hand sanitizer that's going to be in our buildings will have at least 60% alcohol, which is the CDC guidance for hand sanitizer to kill the SARS COVID-19 virus. And we also have on here where we're going to have hand sanitizer. And they're going to be at locations such as the school entrance, the exit points, cafeteria, classrooms, and on transportation vehicles as much as possible there. Face coverings and requirements there. Again, another document. Many of you have, I'm sure, You've heard folks talk about face coverings and how that is an effective way to help slow the spread. We're going to have this readily available for our employees. Again, another live link in here about information regarding face coverings and what to expect during the school day. We also have placed in here the number of face coverings that Gaston County Schools is going to provide to our employees. And we want them to have that. Social distancing, again, as another tool to help reduce the spread. We've social distance in our classrooms. Teachers are going to have the opportunity to mark off space in their rooms with tape. We've done that in our office areas throughout the district so that individuals know where the 6-foot line is, because we do know how important this is to help slow the spread of this disease. Cleaning and disinfecting. Obviously, we all know the importance of cleaning and how that is going to play into making sure that if germs and bacteria are in our schools, that we help rid the schools of those contagions. And we, like Dr. Houchard stated, we just finished our custodial university, and our custodians have been well trained on the disinfecting and what's expected of them during this time. Obviously, we're in a different day where we're not just going to focus on specific areas. Oftentimes, the floors are one area that many people want to focus on, but we've got to really focus on the touch points, and we know that, and that was one of the things that was discussed in the custodial university. You know, those hot spots in schools that everybody touches, door handles. For elementary schools, it's the walls, commodes, toilets. We have to make sure that we're washing and disinfecting those areas as much as possible. Water fountains, again, are one of those areas that we continue to look at. We want our students to have access to water. We're encouraging our students and our staff to bring water bottles because we know that sometimes that can be a hot spot for contagions at our water fountains. We have also worked with our custodial staff to make sure that they're constantly working and disinfecting those areas so that they're not in any students won't be in, or staff won't be in any danger by utilizing those. Elevators, we have elevators in some of our schools, and again, it's a confined space. It's a space that must be cleaned every day because some of our staff and students have to utilize this area. Of course, we're making sure that those individuals know that we limit the number of possible people on an elevator for transportation. Sometimes students especially may require there may be extra assistance required, and we will allow that, but we want to limit that as much as possible. In this handbook, we also have the workplace environment and what it will look like as you work in both an office environment and a school environment. And we went through and we basically laid out some options to adjust if you work in an office space, especially a space where there may be someone in close contact with you. And we just gave some suggestive ideas here that the site supervisor can work with these individuals working in tight spaces so that we are utilizing and following social distancing processes and making sure that people are safe in their environment. The school environment sometimes can be a little bit more difficult, but all employees working in a school environment will have access to hand sanitizer stations. That's going to be an important factor for us as we move forward. And you all know how we use hand sanitizer on a daily basis. And it's going to be a very prevalent thing in our schools and in our classrooms. Obviously, the PPE, the personal protective equipment that we're sharing with our staff and our students both, again, are going to help us in reducing the spread. We're going to expect folks, our teachers especially, to set the tone and to wear this personal protective equipment. Face coverings are a big issue, and we want to make sure that those teachers and employees know how important that is and how students are going to be looking toward the leaders in our school settings to follow their lead as to what they're using in certain situations. So we'll continue to work with staff on that. Working on a school bus. Obviously, cleaning a school bus every day, multiple times a day, is going to be part of the guidance that we're sharing with our bus drivers. Mr. Williams in transportation will have a bus driver training to start the year off. This will be some of the guidance that we constantly go over with our bus drivers. The touch points on a bus, obviously there's many: the windows, the seats, handles, door handles, rails, will all have to be cleaned. And we do have EPA approved disinfectants on each of our buses, just like we do in our schools, that have been known to kill the COVID-19 virus. And we will make sure that our individual bus drivers are doing this each day. Obviously, the promoting social distancing on the bus, Dr. Huchard has shared lots of information regarding bus transportation, so I don't want to get into an area that he's already shared with you, but we do know that limiting but the number of riders on a bus will help reduce the spread of this disease as well. Our roving employees, because we do have some of these that work through the central office and also directly in our schools, our itinerant teachers obviously come to our minds right off the bat. These individuals, when they begin their day, they will start with the symptom screening, and then in every location that they go to, every site, they will have their temperature taken, along with anyone who's working in central office that goes out to different school sites or buildings, GCS buildings. Our facilities employees, this will be something that's required of those gentlemen as well. When they arrive at the facilities location in the morning, they're completing the symptom screener, they're having their temperature checked there, and then every time they go to a school or GCS building, they will go through the temperature check again as they enter the buildings. Meetings and meeting spaces. Obviously, we want to, as much as possible, and as we start the school year off, our staff's coming back on August 10th, we want our principals to be thinking, we've discussed this with them, about those initial meetings that go on every year. We must follow the social distance guidelines associated with that. We have discussed with our principals also the opportunity for them to utilize multiple meeting sessions, larger areas to hold, big meetings. And so anytime we have a meeting, we have to adhere to the 6-foot guidance and make sure that we also are in compliance with government orders as well. Break rooms and meals. This, of course, is a concern with some of our teachers. Anytime you take your mask off and you're in a room with someone when they're eating, there is some concern. So we have some direction here for our folks that aren't directly in the classroom with the teachers. So we may have some employees who go to a break room or have a meal. We're not encouraging anyone to eat in our break rooms. We want them to eat more in an isolated area, or at least an area where they can social distance, or even outside if possible. And obviously in the classroom, that's going to be more of a challenge, but we know that our teachers in the classroom obviously can open windows. The 6-foot social distancing will also be something that they will be able to utilize as well in those areas. Visitors, only essential visitors are being allowed on our campus during this time. And it's just an effort to protect the health and safety of our entire school community. And obviously, any visitors coming onto the site, their temperatures will be taken prior to entering our buildings. And That's already going on in lots of our locations right now. Work and leave guidance. I included this here because this is going to be important for our teachers. We want them to know what's available to them. And again, these are live links that they could go to fill out the guidance and who are high-risk employees, what's the qualification for self-identifying as a high-risk employees. We have this information both on our website, and again, it will be a live document here. And then employee leave, we've went through and basically done a question and answer document for our employees so that they can see some of the questions that we've already worked through, and it's probably a question that they have. And this, again, is a 4-page document that outlines the leave policies that we have in place currently for employees and what you have to do in order to qualify for a leave. And then finally, the social emotional support for staff. We have an EAP program for our employees. It's Humana is our carrier, and we offer employees confidential programs to help them during times of need, times of anxiety, anxiousness, and we want our employees to know that we care about them and we have this available. We want them to utilize this and to take advantage of the offerings that we have here in Gaston County Schools. And then finally, the resources page. These are some of the documents, again, that we have utilized to put together this booklet for our employees as we re-enter school on August 10th, and then as students come back to school on August 17th. One other document that I would like to just share with you, just so that you understand some of the protocols, procedures that we've put in place for both administrators and employees as we work toward this reentry. We have guidance for supervisors. We have documents that support that guidance. And we have guidance for employees. Again, these are documents that are on our website that anyone can access. Health and safety protocols, which are part of the document that I just shared with you, and what the health and safety protocols look like, and when you should not come to our school. Face covering requirements. We have this document that has been designed just for face coverings. It talks about the requirements and then the exceptions to the requirements. Arrival procedures for employees, the screening process that will go on when employees come in the door or report back to school on August 10th, what it's going to look like that day and every day after that. Onset of symptoms, and this is if you were in a school and you began to feel ill, what would happen with the employee as they started demonstrating symptoms related to COVID-19 or just symptoms in general as to feeling ill. Obviously, folks, you all know that anytime someone feels ill in a school now, it's going to be a situation where we have to really focus our attention toward COVID-19 and what's going on there because of the rapid spread of this disease. Exposure and testing flow chart for staff. We have a flow chart that our administrators will have and can utilize as they see fit. Obviously, some of this information continues to change on a regular basis, and it's something that we've had to update multiple times thus far. But I just wanted you to see that we have prepared and are prepared as we move forward, and what it would look like for our administrators as far as who they would call in certain situations. All of our schools are going to have a COVID-19 school coordinator, and we We will work with that coordinator to make sure that we communicate correctly to Gaston County Health and Human Services, and so that we make sure that our schools are well equipped with supplies that they need to help combat this disease. And then employee leave options. Again, the document is there. It's a very lengthy document, but we wanted to make sure that employees know the leave options and also the leave scenarios. A lot of times people want something short and quick, and this is a more concise document that we've put together for our employees. And then just procedural question and answers. Just a Q&A on what might happen. So for example, what's the procedure for students, staff, and visitors who enter our school facility? What's it look like? And our employees want to know this, and we want them to have this information so that they feel comfortable coming back. Another question is, a face covering or mask required? Are there exceptions? Are face shields allowed? And these are all questions that we've already fielded from our staff prior to, and we just put together a Q&A so that individuals know what it's going to look like coming back into our building. Do I have any questions?
I believe Ms. Guthrie's got a question. You're on mute, Ms. Guthrie.
I want to wait until the last report has been given before I ask my questions.
Okay.
Is this the last report?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I want to commend Dr. Booker and your leadership team for a wonderful, detailed report. I can see that you have certainly, since the last meeting, added more information for the board and for our Gaston community. And let me just say one thing. I am not speaking for the board. I am just a member of the board, and I am speaking just for Doc Guthrie. So I would like to begin by saying I am proud to serve as a member of the Gaston Board of Education. As a retired educator and former director of student support services for Gaston County Schools with 38 years of experience in Gaston, Charlotte-Mecklenburg, and the Clover School Districts, I have always placed the health, safety, education, and well-being of children, parents, and the greater school communities at the core of my heart. Each day, as parents send or drop children off at one of the schools where I served, I made a tremendous effort to get children excited about learning. However, this was done in a safe and healthy environment where I, the teacher, was comfortable teaching and the students relaxed while learning. I know that our teachers want to carry that same zeal into their classrooms this new school year. I believe that same spirit lies within the hearts of every support personnel, central office, leadership team, and our superintendent, Dr. Booker. We have made it through inclement weather, tornado, earthquake, intruder, fire, and someone did it drills. We have seen our little preschoolers or kindergartners sobbing while tugging on their mother's skirt or father's pant leg, begging them not to leave them. We have seen parents smiling and sobbing while their children walk across the stage to receive a high school diploma. This year, even with the pandemic and only a few family members present, the same pride and admiration was present. And this happened because of the long hours, dedication, and commitment of our school administrators and teachers wearing masks while trying their best to recognize and congratulate our seniors. They made it happen. These last 3 weeks, I have received mailings, cards, phone calls, text, and emails regarding the reopening of school. The requests have been to vote for Plan A, Plan B, or Plan C. Reasons given for the support of A, B, or C were all excellent ones. The survey conducted by NCAE was not the only option. Gaston County Schools created a survey, placed it online for parents and guardians to complete, and I have the results of that survey in my hand today. And the survey indicated many things that our parents wanted and believed that they should see from our Gaston County School District. As far as the technology, how our professionals handle the immediate closing of our schools. And I want to read the last one. It says, there were several comments made by parents in support of the work that was done by teachers, administrators, and district staff levels in such a short turnaround in March. Many parents acknowledged that the district did the best they could with the resources given. A few parents shared that they would like to see more structure in the next phase of remote learning and would like for their child to be able to receive new instruction. That I have seen this afternoon in the presentation. So I want to say that I heard the presentation about personnel working hard. I heard that it's important for us to make sure that our schools are safe for reopening. I heard, and I applaud those principals out there, the 54 reopening plans provided by the principals. And believe me, I know that that wasn't easy. I want to, however, acknowledge the fact that with our health and safety guidelines, we do have 2 health professionals who are going to work diligently and keep the mode of communication open for our schools and central office staff. I also heard that you will be collaborating with the department, the health department. I heard that there were options and strategies that were going to be in place for our exceptional services and for our children in our exceptional program. I am just so happy to hear that. And I want to thank Ms. Minnick for sharing that wonderful information with us. And yes, we will need to modify areas so that our babies will understand how important it is to wear masks if they can. And if not, I know we talked about the medical exceptions that will be made. And certainly we want to do everything that we can possibly do in order to comply and to be accommodating to any student. I heard that the office supplies were going to be available. I heard that the students were going to have a monitor on the bus, but I did not hear. I think I heard when appropriate or as appropriate or whenever we can. I don't want to quote exactly, but did you say that there would be sanitizing stations at the on the buses. I know that the monitor will be there to check the temperature. What if a temperature is high and this is a bus stop for more than one child or more than a family unit? So if a temperature is high and a parent has already left that site, what happens then to that child? Will the monitor remain there with the child, or will the bus be able to go on? How will that happen? Hello?
Yes, that takes me a moment. I'm sorry to turn on my equipment, Ms. Guthrie. The monitors will have thermometers and as well as the parent attestation sheet they will collect in the morning. If a child has a temperature, the plan is to have the parent there return the child to the parent. If there is no parent at the bus stop or no guardian, the monitor will stay with that child and support that child until we can get that child back to their home.
Will there be a telephone designated to each of the bus monitors so that they will have that direct contact with the principals and the parent?
Yes, ma'am. All the bus drivers, all the buses have cell phones on them that are dedicated lines for our drivers.
Okay, so I appreciate hearing that. As we look at the learning platforms, and I heard Miss Bianca talk about the virtual school, and I know I heard that you had over, I think, 4,000 or 5? I misplaced that on my notes. But we're going to be using the same platform basically that will be used in the elementary and middle and high schools. I think that, I have used Canvas, and board member Cherry and I watched a demonstration of Schoology. I wonder if our teachers, I understand the video training that's online for them, but I wonder if it isn't necessary to have that Zoom training with an IT person there so that they will fully understand this platform. And I appreciate immensely what I heard from each of the presentations today. But when we talk about parents having access to those learning platforms online, I think in addition to that, parents will need to be trained. Well, again, I am just suggesting that they have some type of Zoom training. We do not want them to accept a program that they do not understand. And it's going to take more, I believe, than just a posting on the website for parents to fully understand, because I frankly believe that it's going to take more than just posting for our teachers to understand. Based on what I heard Mr. Clinton say, that the teachers are going to need to do as part of their classroom readiness when they return to school. I heard also that children would be getting or would have access to a digital device, but I did not hear anything about an opportunity for them to have additional internet access when they are not in the schools, unless their digital devices are going to be offline ready for them to complete some of the modules that they will need to complete. And as far as the syllabi, I am thinking, we talked about looking at some of the coursework that was accepted by the North Carolina Department of Instruction. I would like to maybe hear about some of the electives that would be offered to our young people as well. I appreciate everything that I heard today I do believe that thought, dedication, commitment, and doing what's best for our children and teachers went into your planning. However, I just want again to say that I'm speaking only for me. I feel that, while we were in the meeting today, I actually heard the governor extend our phase. We will remain in phase 2. And I am going to, Mr. Chair, I understand that we cannot start our teachers on the 10th of August and bring our children back on after Labor Day. I understand that it must be like a remote, or, we do Plan B. So speaking just as a board member, only for Dr. Guthrie, am I in a position to make a motion?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Guthrie.
I am going to make a motion that we start our school year out with Plan C. And as we look at the numbers, we return back to B or back to A. But right now, based on the state's plan to keep us in phase 2, and what I feel like we still need to do, although I applaud you for what you've done, but we need to make sure that our teachers understand how to use their platforms and make assessments and contact parents, and parents understand our Zoom, our learning platforms, Schoology, and Canvas. I'm just going to make that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table to go to Plan C versus Plan B. Is that correct, Ms. Guthrie?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion. Need a second?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. This motion fails for lack of a second. Unless there is another motion on the table, we are in Plan B, presented and voted on at our last meeting. Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Do we have any more questions?
I have a comment. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Dedman?
First of all, I'd like to thank all the parents and teachers that communicated with me, the ones that sent me emails, the ones that sent me texts, the ones that left voicemails. I can promise you that I can't answer every one of them, but I can promise you that I have read and listened to every email that you sent me, and I appreciate greatly what you have sent me. So thank you.
Ms. Cherry?
I'm going to echo what Ms. Guthrie and Mr. Dedman, I'm sure the rest of the board. I've had every type of communication that you can get, from the grocery store to the phone calls to the texts to the emails to stopping me on the street, and I have weighed every one of them. This has probably been one of the toughest times that we all have had being on the board. But having said that, I do have a couple of comments. Some of the PowerPoints and some of the presentations, I would hope that we can put the applicable ones on our website, especially ones that Mr. Clinton presented, because that's good information. Some of it I could not read just because it was too small and I'm old. But anything that would be applicable and continued information to our viewership, not just our parents and our staff, but the citizens of Gastonia and Gaston County, I'd like to get on our website as soon as we possibly could, and on Channel 21. So thank y'all for the information. It was very informative. I know that there's still a lot of questions that we all have, And I'm going to encourage our staff to, as soon as we fill in these holes, to get the information to all of us so that we can check off those questions in our heads. So thank you.
Mr. Ramsey?
Like everyone said, this has been very hard for all of us, very difficult decision for this board to implement Plan B to reopen our schools. We felt this was the best plan for our option in our schools. We all know we're all in this together. It's going to take all of us and all of our staff, parents, students, and teachers to make this work. So, Doc, we do understand your side on the C plan, but we felt this was the best option for us. And like everyone else said, I just want to thank the teachers, the parents, and even students, email and text and phone calls to us to share their concerns and their thought on these plans. And we're looking forward to move forward with this, and hopefully everything works out. And I did have a question. And y'all mentioned there's 5,300 signed up for Virtual Academy. Is some of our classroom teachers have an opportunity to do virtual teaching? I've had a couple of teachers ask me that question.
Yes, sir. That is part of the process. The virtual enrollment is open through the end of the week, and so the number has been growing this week. So once we close enrollment, they'll then begin to build, as Bianca said, the class schedules and those, and we'll have to work in conjunction with the schools, because we also are keeping by school where a student has elected to not attend in physical presence but wants to be in the virtual. They're still associated with that home school. As Bianca said, if they're in a choice program, they keep that option. And so we have to work through and look at all of those resources once it is. So yes, and I can, at this time, it's over, I believe, there are 50 individuals that Mr. Clinton and his group have worked with who have gone through the medical exemption and options, and they'll be looking at allowing them to be in the virtual. And there are other teachers. And with the volume of virtual students, we will need teachers in addition to those that need accommodations that would meet the virtual.
And I think you mentioned on the janitorial for the schools, most of them are going to be working in the school hours, then cleaning in a daily, hourly.
They will have staff there during the student time there, but as well as after hours for the additional cleaning.
To the cleaning and everything. Okay. I think that's all I have.
If I may, Ms. Guthrie had a couple of good points in there. I want to make sure we didn't do a technology particular in this. You know, we are in the process of securing devices. You know that through the donation, we were able to get 4,000 devices that facilitate. So we have a device for every child, but we have purchased additional devices. But as many of you know, there's a backlog and getting things that are manufactured overseas into the country. The pandemic has affected that. So we'll start using some of our older devices, and during the year, we'll get those and we'll replace those devices. Also, Ms. Guthrie brought up a great point about the internet access for our families. What we were able to accomplish this summer is at all of our high schools, we have actually installed a remote access point. So if you're in the parking lot at certain parts of our high schools, you can, using one of our devices, you will be able to get internet access in the parking lot. So it's actually, during the spring, we tried to move devices inside the building close to the outside walls, but for this coming year, there's actually one been installed outside that will provide access at all of our high schools. Additionally, we are part of the Low Wealth Consortium, and they were able to get a commitment from a vendor that we used in the spring to try and get internet hotspots for folks, and it had a limit on the data. Through the purchasing power of 10,000 of those devices being purchased, we were able to get a little over 500 devices, and those devices will have unlimited data on them, so we'll be able to meet that need. Again, that doesn't solve the problem of our community, but that is a piece of the solution, and we were able to use COVID funds for that. That was done through the state procurement program, and it had state interpretation on allowing it, because if you all will recall, the funding said we could acquire devices, but we couldn't do the service for those. And so this was packaged through the state and approved by the state purchasing to allow you to get 1 year of service included in the purchase. So all that is a positive for us. Additionally, our curriculum facilitators have been working so that when a child is leaving on the second day of their class, if we know they have a challenge at home with access to the internet, they can load on the device. Our Chromebooks have enough capacity that they can load documents for those 3 days of instruction when they're gone. Still not perfect, but it's a step forward for us. So all that is work that's done, and that's the improvement and the learning that's gone on in our organization through this process. So I wanted to cover that because Ms. Guthrie did bring up that technology wasn't covered. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. Mr. Hall?
How many students do we have in the school system?
A little over 31,000.
So we're looking at probably around 17% virtual right now, would you say?
Somewhere in there, yes, sir.
And that'd free up space for inside, to meet the requirements?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to ask you a few questions that I was asked to ask you about the bus. Are they expected to be spend a lot of time on the buses now,
Well, what we're doing with the routes, because most of our buses, it'll be 24 students, 1 per seat. And so we are working to maximize the routes in shorter runs, but we're a large county with some rural areas. And so they will be working, and those routes are still being developed because what we now, Mr. Hall, are having to, who's coming and who's virtual. And we also know that first week of school, we'll learn some folks who historically have been bus riders may be car riders now. We know some neighborhoods may do it, so it'll be an adjustment.
And just like in a household, Jill and John Hill, they'll go to school the same day even though they're in high school.
Yes, sir. We are working to try and coordinate multi-levels and that. And so I encourage, we have had families reaching out and like we had one that they had heard about one child, hadn't heard about the other two. Just give us time to work through those because our schools are working diligently and they're just getting staff back in these days to facilitate that.
And school hours will remain the same?
No, sir. Elementary will start at 7:30, and middle and high will start at 8:30. We historically, our schools have all started somewhere around 8 o'clock, but to facilitate the transportation and the way we're having to meet that need, we have moved to 30 minutes each side.
And then like the students that do like automotive and welding, will they be able to go to their labs?
Career and technical education remains a challenge because of the hands-on, but there are interpretations facilitating where you can bring small groups together, and we're still working through that. Yes, sir.
I hate to ask you this, but how confident are you that this will work on the scale?
Okay, so Mr. Hall's asked the elephant in the room question of how confident am I that this will work? I believe this is the best option that we can present at this time. Does it have challenges? I know that this upcoming school year will be challenging, and it will be one that will cause flexibility and adaptability will be crucial for all of us because on any school year, starting up 30,000+ kids, operating 200 buses, and the challenges, the first 2 weeks of school are always challenging. Now we'll have the addition of all these extra rules and regulations. But what also those rules and regulations do, we're in a much smaller, as you just pointed out, when you take 5,000 out, when you take about only half of this and half of this, it breaks it down. It still doesn't make it any easier. And it will be difficult. I'm sure many of you have seen the picture today from Georgia where there was a bunch of kids in a hallway. But also no mask. We're required to do much more stringent things than some other states are required to do. Those will be difficult things to do. I don't want to make the light of any of this being easy. But Henry Ford one time was quoted as saying, "Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a progress, working together is success." And I believe as we all work together to do this, we'll be successful. But yes, sir, there are going to be bumps. We're going to have COVID will be identified. It's in our community now. Through the summer, we had cases occasional in our things. Part of this is also respectful of how it gets identified. That's where we work with the health department. That's why it's so crucial. And you see adding the additional health work and having Ms. Worthy come back who knows our system and knows the health department to work on this part. So yes, sir, it will be a challenge, but I believe that we are going to give it our best effort. And as I said at our last meeting, we'll have to also be respectful that if it's not working, to say it's not working.
Thank you.
Mr. Devon?
Yes, sir. I have one question and then I have a comment to make. On a virtual day, I go to school Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I get lunch. Do I come just like we have in the past and pick it up out front? I mean, I didn't hear that mentioned.
We didn't talk about, in our previous, we talked we would continue operating our grab and go. What is critical, and we mentioned this, all those regulations are through August 31st.
Gotcha.
And so we are waiting to see what will come in the next CARES package and that to give us those waivers for the 31st. But we'll continue to operate our grab and go. What we are exploring, Mr. Devon, is do we need additional sites? And we know there was an organization that during the summer was delivering to over 400 homes. And they have said, as the fall becomes, we don't have the capacity to continue that. So there are things like that we still
And my
need.
second thing is, I really appreciate the principal's job they did on their reentry plans. And I'm sure that someone in our office or central office will look at those and share the best practices with everybody.
What I would compliment our executive directors. They have been working in teams, and our elementary started weeks ago working in teams of 5 and then sharing best practices across. Our high schools, because there's 11, have worked together. If you look, you'll see very similar things in those. They have been working
Well,
together.
I have read
to do
some
that.
of it, and I'm highly impressed with them. They did a great job.
And
And
the thing about those plans recognizing is each of our buildings is a unique
oh, yeah.
item, and so they have to adapt to theirs.
The final thing I want to say is that going through this whole process is just like my fellow board members. It's really one of the most difficult things that I've had to do. I'm through prayer and guidance and just hoping to make the right decision. I think we have made the right decision. But I read a quote yesterday when I was right in the middle of this, and I thought it was just really on target. It says, "We're moving through a lot of tough days as we tried to build a world that brings better tomorrows." And that's by Brene Brown. And I just thought that was so appropriate. Maybe not as good as Henry Ford's, but I thought it was very appropriate that we will build a better tomorrow, and we will build a better tomorrow together. And, you know, we don't all agree sometimes, and some of our parents don't, but we are doing the best we can together to be successful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Devon. Ms. Cherry?
I just have one comment about transportation. I've kind of been hearing, and I don't know if this is accurate, so let me just preface that, Morgan and Dr. Booker, that the call has been made out for people that, to let them know if their children are going to ride the bus or not, and we haven't had a lot of good response on that. So I just am asking a all-call plea that if you are or you aren't, please let our school administrators know, because we can't do this without the community's help. And that would make a tremendous difference if you could check that off their plate to let them know if you need the bus benefits. And if you don't, that would make a tremendous difference. So if you've gotten that message and you hadn't responded, I know that they would appreciate it if you would respond. Thanks.
Mr. Usher?
I normally just keep my mouth shut and try to take it all in, but I just absolutely feel compelled to say, I don't know of a single soul in this room who could have arrived at any decision that has been made that you haven't spent countless hours of contemplating the decision that you were asked to make. I can't believe that you haven't spent countless hours on your knees asking for guidance and for help, because I, for one, have never faced anything like this, and I don't believe anybody else in here is old enough to have faced anything like this. But I honestly believe that after all of the deliberation, and certainly after today's presentation, we have seen how Gaston County Schools has come together and has put together and has answered a lot of questions and concerns that I have had and that I know that my parents have had. I'm surprised this thing didn't blow up. I'm surprised this thing didn't blow up. I'm surprised that I didn't have to come down here today filthy and dirty and hungry, because this is all I've done, and this is all I've done because I've tried to give these two big ears to everybody. And I've tried to let it go in through these ears and into this heart of mine. And this heart is almost to the breaking point, because I don't understand, like anybody else, where this thing came from. If I've been around anybody that's, they about didn't let me in out there because they said I was hot. Well, that was only because I was standing in the sun. If I could have found shade to walk in here, I'd have stayed under the shade. I think y'all have chopped some of the trees down. So at any rate, I think it's about time to use the same decree that David Farragut, we all been quoting people. May I quote for you David Farragut, the Union general who went up the Mississippi, who said, "Damn the torpedoes," and full speed ahead. He knew what he was getting into. He knew he wasn't going to get to go up the Mississippi on a pleasure cruise. He had a job to do. He went to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody that calls themselves a teacher, we have a job to do. We have a calling to answer to. You don't teach because you choose to teach. You teach because you've got a calling on your life. So there's going to be dangers out there. But that's not going to stop me from living. That shouldn't stop any of us from living. We can't walk around in fear. We weren't placed on this earth to live in fear. So let's get to it.
Mr. Chair, I just got one more comment.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
really
Russell.
nice words, Terry.
Mr. Ramsey.
As we all know, after the July the 20th meeting, everybody thanks the staff and everything, but this is when it's really turned up. By hanging out at home, I get to listen to my wife's Zoom meeting, and with the principal piping in, bringing in the teachers and everything. So they have been full steam ahead since they got the call in July the 20th to make this work. They've been training. They've been following Mr. Booker's leads and the staff and the cabinet. And I just want to thank everyone, because it's going to take all of us to do this. And Terry, that was really sweet words. So Mr. Booker, we've been praying for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Mr. Davis.
Chairman Moore, thank you very much. And again, fellow members of the board, I apologize for not being able to be there with you in the boardroom this afternoon. I had a prior commitment out of town, but I'm glad I was able to make it this way. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank Dr. Booker and his staff. I want to thank our principals. I want to thank all of our administrators and our teachers for doing exactly what needed to be done after we decided to move to Plan B, and that was to roll up our sleeves, make a commitment to the students of our county and the families of our county, and get to work, hard work, to make this thing happen and to get us ready for August the 17th. Dr. Booker, thank you so much, and everyone else, for the reports today. It is clear to me that when I asked you a question on the last meeting, are we going to be ready by August the 17th? And I think you told me that we would be ready and that we were going to do everything we could be to be ready. And I'm convinced that we have been working to be ready. Will things be perfect? No. But the first day of school is never perfect, even in a quote unquote normal year. And this is certainly not a normal year. And it's clear to me that we're going to be as ready as anybody can be. And I think what we have done is we have looked at the needs of all of our students, our special needs children, our exceptional children, our disadvantaged children without the means for remote learning, our children who need meals in schools, our AIG children. We've looked at the needs of all of our children. And I think Plan B best meets those needs. We've looked at the needs of our children and families who do not want their children to be in a live school, and they have a choice, and that is our virtual academy. We are doing everything we can to try to meet the needs of as many or all of our children as we can, and I commend everyone for working hard to make that happen. The other thing I wanted to do is I'm sure, as many of the other board members have, I've gotten a lot of emails from a lot of people with opinions across the board. And I want to thank everybody who has emailed us. I want to thank everyone who cares enough about our schools and our educational system to reach out to us and to let us know what you think, what your issues are, what your thoughts are. Sincerely appreciate that. I hope you understand that all of us have gotten so many emails, it's hard to respond to all of them. But hopefully those folks have been able to watch us here today and get their questions answered. But again, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank everyone for being so thoughtful. I commend my fellow board members for being so thoughtful. And I look forward to moving forward with a successful school opening under Plan B. Thank you again. I very much appreciate everybody's efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Anyone else? Ms. Guthrie, you're on mute, Ms. Guthrie.
Again, I want to thank our superintendent, our school administrators, central office staff, and everyone. I certainly believe, and to our parents. You speak of emails. As I mentioned earlier, we receive lots and lots of emails, and we appreciate what you have done and the voices that you shared with us. And through such a demonstration, we know that you're going to be watchful and mindful of everything that we do this year, because you have already shown that you want the very best for your children, whether it's Plan B or, well, it is Plan B. So you want the very best, or whether it's the virtual academy. Some of you have been quoting all after with your remarks, so I'm going to leave you with one quote. Well, first of all, I want to ask the itinerant folk, what will they be doing? And are you going to do fundraisers? Will you allow the schools to do fundraisers this year? Those are things, I guess, that you're still trying to work out. So I'm not expecting an answer, just a thought thrown out there. So
you can throw athletics in there as well, Ms. Guthrie. We still got that thing.
Okay, well, I'll throw that in as well. Mr. Moore, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to have time to express my true feelings. I am an educator. I will always be one. I've had the experience in the classroom. I know what it's like to have needs and you don't get them right away. But I have heard this afternoon that those needs will be met. So I will have peace of mind. And when we hear that our principals are making reservations to have certain things arrive at their schools so that they can remain safe, I will have peace of mind with that too. I don't have the spirit of fear. God did not give me that. And I'm going to leave you with one quote, and it comes from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It says, "Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase." And that's what we're getting ready to do. We can't see it all. And I want you to know that I am praying, because we have the bells outside of the schools. Before a person can enter, they must ring that bell and identify themselves. Well, this intruder doesn't need a bell. It can come in at any time. So we're going to pray that our faculty, our administration, our staff, and the whole Gaston County School District will have a very successful and wonderful experience for our children to enter on the 17th of August. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Any more questions? Comments? I just want to say thank you, Dr. Booker. Him and his staff, I talk to Dr. Booker 4 or 5 times a day some days, and he's worked very, very hard well, he works hard all the time, but he's worked very hard this last several months. And this isn't an easy task. I mean, we're dealing with the same thing that every other district in the United States is dealing with. So I want to thank our board members for their hard work. Ms. Guthrie, I respect your stance on the situation. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Dr. Booker.
I would just say, as Ms. Cherry has said, there are a lot of communications going out to our community. Please be giving us answers and feedback so that we do have as much a chance as being successful, because together, all of us, we can support our schools, our teachers, and have a safe and successful school year for everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn, please.
Got a motion to adjourn? Second, Mr. Hall. All in favor?
Yes.
And it's unanimous. We're adjourned.